After shotcreting the garage, we still had the lift on site. A man lift is a very helpful thing for applying waterproofing, and the concrete actually cures stronger if the waterproofing traps that moisture inside right away. Also, the weather report said it would be a beautiful weekend for waterproofing. We started with a good sweep to get rid of that concrete dust and the loose pea stone. Then I started applying the Blue Max from the top and working my way down. Once we got the hang of it, it went very quickly. The sprayer uses up the buckets of waterproofing very quickly, but it can't quite reach the bottom couple inches in each bucket, so Hunter had the fun job of combining all those remnants into one bigger bucket. My job of spraying was a lot more fun, except that I was paying for each of the buckets that I was using up. We switched to using the lift and things were moving along nicely. Meanwhile, unpredicted bad weather started to roll in. The time-lapse camera cut out just before the storm, but trust me, it was a heavy one. And I watched as my expensive water-based Blue Max was washed off the building and formed these nice blue rivers that headed down the driveway. At the end of the storm, we figured we'd lost about $400 worth of Blue Max, plus the lift rental and the weekend. We couldn't even continue applying Blue Max that day because we had to wait for the structure to dry off. Anyway, I took the following Monday off work and came back out to try again. When we gave it that second coat, we realized we weren't really starting from scratch, and that first $400 worth of Blue Max hadn't really all washed off. Also, we got a deal from the lift company that let us not pay for that rainy weekend, so it wasn't as bad of a loss as we thought it would be. We got pretty good at working from the lift, but all the little bumps and lumps meant that it was very difficult to get full coverage in one pass. Whatever angle we shot from would leave tiny little shadows where no waterproofing landed. Attempting to fill all these cracks and get around all the pebbles chewed through a lot more of the expensive waterproofing than we might otherwise have used. Even after trying from a bunch of different angles, Sherry came around after us over the next few days, not on camera, and used a paintbrush to fill in a lot of the little gaps that we'd left behind. In hindsight, I really should have spent the time with my mortar gun and trowel and smoothed out some of those worst areas before moving on to the expensive waterproofing. Anyway, at the end, we got on a pretty thick layer of rubber waterproofing, and the man lift really did help make that job much easier. Then we switched over to the bedroom wing, and this time I did take some time to patch up the worst rough spots with that hydraulic cement before we got started. Again, starting from the top and working our way down, we were now much more comfortable with the equipment, and I let Hunter and David each take turns, take shifts, getting the work done. I love this scene where the camera catches David and Hunter chilling out during a break. And then of course getting back to work. Shotcrete has low slump, but it still has some slump, meaning that it slides down a bit under its own weight before it has time to set. This causes gaps to form around pipes and under any boards, such as windowsills or the edges of these skylight caps. I ended up coming back later and filling in all of these with hydraulic cement. Then it was time to lay out the French drain around the perimeter. This involved some chiseling away of the Shotcrete rebound that had fallen there, digging a trench, and then placing the HDPE drain pipe wrapped in landscaper's fabric along that. And then finally we covered that all back over with pea stone. Carrying in that pea stone in the big skid steer bucket made this job so much easier than it was for the basement where we were doing things, one little bucket at a time, walking down this sandy slope. The south side was similar. That little fillet along that bottom edge was basically the smoothed out remains of all the Shotcrete that just fell off while they were shooting. After breaking off those thinner edge bits, I took it all away in the skid steer. Hunter and I did most of the skid steer driving, but my 12-year-old really wanted to try it. His mother wasn't around, so we let him, and of course he loved it.
Yeah. Oh, good. Now tip it up. Okay. Heel on the other pedal. Other pedal, heel up a little bit. Okay, good. Okay.
all that drain tile work, my friend Dan came out to weld my thicker steel with his arc welder. I would have loved to have stayed with him and learned that skill better, but the schedule pressed me on. So I was just really appreciative that that job got done. My kids really liked the blue, the neighbors not so much. But it turned out that it really was a bit of a mistake, at least as far as timing went. Check out the website for more details on that. Take a closer look at this waterproofing. This section of wall is smoother because we had a couple extra finishing guys on the crew the day they shot it. This other section was done on a day without the extra finishing guys. You can see all the extra rubber needed to fill in these holes. $250 to pay a guy to trowel this right side clearly paid for itself and saved waterproofing. But zooming out, we see the timing problem. Before I could bury, I needed to finish shooting this little section of the roof and the eyebrows over the dormers. At the time, I thought that would happen soon after, but then winter hit early. Here's another view. This is one of the dormers that's been waiting to get shot for over 2 months now. You can see the pink insulation is turning white due to the UV damage. My concern is that those same UV rays are damaging the Blue Max. I partially covered the building to keep the sun off it, and this side is still covered, but the storms ripped off most of the plastic from the north side of the building. I put it on again once, but ripped off again, so I left it. The worst affected Blue Max is on the south sides of the skylight curbs. These were never actually covered, and appear to be crazing in spots. It's still rubbery here. I'm trying to poke it with my fingernails for you so you can see it, but my nails are too short. However, if you look closely, you can see that there are these little surface tears. Actually, it's more like the surface has shrunk and pulled away like a dried out lake bed. However, the tears don't go all the way through the rubber, and if I scrape off the surface, there's still good rubber underneath. But still, the Blue Max company says I should bury within a month to protect from UV damage. And this has been out here all winter and most of the summer. So basically, I put on this waterproofing when I did because I had the lift, and I thought I would bury relatively soon. But clearly, I should have waited until I was really ready to bury before applying that waterproofing.